So today we will be discussing about estimation of serum total bilirubin. The estimation will be done by colorimetric diazo endpoint method. We will be discussing this under the 10 headings, that is principle, clinical significance, methods of estimation of total bilirubin, sample specimen collection, procedure, reference range, observation, calculation and result, interpretation, question and answers. Before we start the actual procedure, let us discuss about certain points related to bilirubin metabolism. These are the organs that are involved in bilirubin metabolism. It starts from spleen, where the RBCs, after completion of 120 days or before its completion, for some reason, when they die, they will be processed and then it will go to the liver via blood circulation, from liver to the gut, and from gut to the kidneys. There will also be some intrahepatic circulation. So in all there will be 4 organs involved, that is spleen, liver, gut and the kidneys. Now this is the slide which will tell you about the normal metabolism of bilirubin. As you can see here, that in the reticuloendothelial cells, the RBCs first break down into heme. Heme is further undergoes various reactions and it forms unconjugated bilirubin. This unconjugated bilirubin is insoluble in aqueous medium and it is also known as indirect bilirubin. This unconjugated bilirubin now comes into the bloodstream where it attaches with a protein albumin. So after becoming attached to albumin, it is now in circulation. It can easily circulate. But it is still known as unconjugated bilirubin albumin complex or indirect bilirubin. Indirect bilirubin now enters the liver via circulation. In the liver, there is another protein which is an anion transporter and it is known as ligandin or ligandin. It binds to the bilirubin and does not allow its flow back into the bloodstream. In the liver, bilirubin is conjugated. Now, what is conjugation? Conjugation is a process of making insoluble substances like bilirubin or some drugs into soluble form. And who does this? It is done by the enzyme uridine glucuronyl transferase. This step occurs twice and this makes it into conjugated bilirubin, where there are 2 glucuronyl groups attached. So it is glucuronized twice. Only then the conjugation is complete. Once conjugation is complete, this bilirubin is known as direct bilirubin and it is also known as water soluble bilirubin. Now it goes into the gut and in the gut it loses the glucuronic acid groups by the action of gut bacteria or the microflora of the intestine, and it converts it into first unconjugated bilirubin and then urobilinogen. So we have to remember that it is the conjugated bilirubin that converts to urobilinogen. Now a part of the urobilinogen is excreted by the kidneys. 80% of it is excreted by the feces as stercobilin and remaining portion of the urobilinogen via enterohepatic circulation goes back into the liver. So these are the different types of bilirubins that have been found in the serum, that is unconjugated bilirubin, also known as alpha bilirubin, mono unconjugated bilirubin, in which there is just one glucuronic acid group attached. This is known as beta bilirubin. And the diconjugated bilirubin, which is known as gamma bilirubin, and there are two glucuronic acid groups attached to the bilirubin. A fraction of it is irreversibly bound to the protein, and it is known as delta bilirubin. Beside the type of hyperbilirubinemia. So what is the significance of measuring bilirubin? Elevated bilirubin levels always help us to classify and identify the cause of hyperbilirubinemia. It can be prehepatic jaundice, hepatic jaundice, or post-hepatic jaundice. The differentiation between these are important in diagnosing the cause of hyperbilirubinemia. So let us start with latent jaundice. The normal range of total bilirubin is 0.2 to 1 milligram. So whenever it is more than 1 milligram per deciliter, it is hyperbilirubinemia. When it is between 1 and 2 milligrams per deciliter, it is latent jaundice. And bilirubin more than 2 milligrams per deciliter is known as clinical jaundice. It is known as clinical jaundice because the yellow is discoloration of the sclera, the skin and the mucosa are visible, and it is in latent jaundice that this yellow discoloration is not visible. The principle of colorimetric endpoint method is based on Van Denberg's reaction. In Van Denberg's reaction, the water-soluble component of bilirubin reacts with diazo reagent to give a pinkish red colored compound called azobilirubin directly without taking much time. Within 2 minutes, this reagent is able to react with the water-soluble bilirubin and give a pink color. On the other hand, the unconjugated bilirubin, because it is insoluble, it cannot react with the diazo reagent. So, to make it soluble, we have to add an accelerator which can either be methanol, ethanol, or caffeine. In this case, in the practical that you are going to perform, the accelerator here is methanol, which will accelerate its reaction with diazo reagent. So when methanol is added, after, if there is raised indirect bilirubin, the color will further intensify and it will give total bilirubin. So these are the various methods by which bilirubin can be estimated. Ehrlich's method, which is all these methods are actually based on Van Denberg's reaction, but there are minor differences. So Jendrassik-Groff's method is the quickest of all because caffeine reacts very quickly and makes indirect bilirubin into direct bilirubin. That the serum sample has some kind of yellowish discoloration. So this yellowish discoloration is so dark that it contributes to an OD. Now we don't want any value of this discoloration. So we add it in both test as well as blank. Here, first we add diazo reagent. There is color development quickly, and then when we add methanol, the color development takes a little late and it intensifies if both conjugated and unconjugated bilirubin are high. Such a response is known as biphasic response because the color is intensifying in two phases. First, when the reagent is reacting with indirect bilirubin, and second, when it is reacting with indirect bilirubin on adding an accelerator called methanol. How will we calculate? We will calculate like you do in all other tests. Here the formula is given. The standard concentration it is 8 milligram percentage. These are the reference ranges given. So since we are estimating total bilirubin, if after calculation the bilirubin level of your sample is more than 1, then it is hyperbilirubinemia. Okay. Now let us see what are the causes of hyperbilirubinemia. It can be congenital, it can be neonatal or physiological, or it can be acquired. In congenital, there are 5 types wherein there is some inherited deficiency of bilirubin metabolism. So there are 3 types, that is Crigler-Najjar syndrome 1, Crigler-Najjar syndrome 2 and Gilbert syndrome. All these are examples of conjugated hyperbilirubinemia. Dubin-Johnson syndrome and Rotor's syndrome, they form the cause of hepatic jaundice. Now in neonatal jaundice or physiological jaundice, when when the child comes into life, its conjugation system is still not developed, but the liver is not in a position to conjugate all the bilirubin of produced, and therefore it leads to increase in indirect bilirubin, and this is known as physiological jaundice, which occurs at after 24 hours of the birth in almost every child. In acquired jaundice, it is classified into 3 types: prehepatic, hepatic and post-hepatic jaundice. Let us see the congenital hyperbilirubinemia once again. It can be classified into 2 types: unconjugated and conjugated. Gilbert syndrome, Crigler-Najjar syndrome 1 and 2 fall into unconjugated category, where the indirect bilirubin is higher, whereas Rotor's syndrome and Dubin-Johnson syndrome are classified as conjugated hyperbilirubinemias because the direct bilirubin is high. Now this is neonatal hyperbilirubinemia, which we just discussed, wherein the yellowish color of the skin and sclera are deposited. Then in the newborn, the bilirubin is more than 5 milligrams per deciliter. Physiological jaundice is the result of many factors that are normal physiological characteristics of newborns: increased bilirubin production resulting from increased RBC mass, shortened RBC lifespan, hepatic immaturity of ligandin and glucuronil transferase. Now there's another type, that is breast milk jaundice. Due to factors in breast milk jaundice like estrogen, pregnanidiol, free fatty acids, and beta-glucuronidase, they interfere with bilirubin conjugation, and this causes the excretion of bilirubin along with the breast milk. So instead of 7 days continues to rise, may go up to 20 to 30 milligrams by second and third week of age, and may return to normal within 4 to 12 weeks. We'll discuss a little more about physiological jaundice. Why physiological jaundice is harmful? Because indirect bilirubin is capable of crossing the blood-brain barrier in the neonates, and it will deposit in the brain and cause Kernicterus. Okay, so three among 5 newborn babies have neonatal jaundice. Now this neonatal jaundice is easily curable, and it mostly subsides within 5 days or a week. What has to be done? Generally, phototherapy is given, and sometimes even blood transfusions may be carried. See, in this picture, a healthy baby is shown, and along with it, a baby with severe jaundice is also shown. But when severe jaundice is left untreated in conditions, it can rapidly progress and it can start depositing into the brain, and it will ultimately damage the brain, and this is known as kernicterus. There can be some visual impairments and hearing impairments also, and there can be some movement disorders where the child becomes very slow and there are involuntary writhing movements. Sometimes phenobarbital doses therapy may be given because phenobarbital is a drug which increases ligandin activity in the liver. It also induces the cytochrome P450 containing enzyme, that is the glucuronosyl transferase. So once the conjugating enzymes are induced, the conjugation process begins, and it increase the conjugation process increases, and this will help in excretion of bilirubin via kidneys and stool. Now we come to the acquired jaundice. As you know, it is of three types: hepatic jaundice or hemolytic jaundice, intrahepatic jaundice, and post-hepatic jaundice. The causes of prehepatic jaundice are hemolytic blood transfusion, sickle cell disease, thalassemia, spherocytosis. It can also be due to hemolytic disease of the newborn and autoimmune hemolytic anemias. Intrahepatic jaundice is because of hepatocellular liver damage, hepatitis, cirrhosis, and post-hepatic obstruction of bile flow, structural disorders of bile duct, cholelithiasis, congenital atresia, and bile duct obstruction caused by tumors cause post-hepatic jaundice. These are the questions. I think you will be able to answer all the questions now, which we have after discussing the whole bilirubin metabolism and its consequences.